travelers, Mag and I here on day 206 of our trip around the United States. We pushed well on into the night last night and made our way into Truth or Consequences, where we bedded down and waited for the sun to come up to be able to start our day. Right now, we're currently in Caballo. This is the last county and page we need in the entire southern half of New Mexico. That wraps this thing up for us. The thing is, to get to the next county and page that we need all the way down in the southeast corner of Arizona is a lot of driving. So we're going to be taking the I-25 from here until we connect to the I-10. And right before we cross over into Arizona, we're going to drop down off the I-10 and come into the very southern end of the state. We have 500 miles to cover on this route today. It is almost all driving with very few targets in the mix. The goal for tonight is to make it to Tucson. If we fall a little short, that's just fine because we have all day tomorrow slated for Tucson. That way, if we don't make all the miles we have today, we've got a little bit of wiggle room to recover in what we have planned for tomorrow. I'm not particularly excited about all the driving we had ahead of us today. It's a lot of miles to cover. But I am excited that we're already well past halfway done with the state of New Mexico after only being here for 2 days. Not a bad deal in my opinion. So let's get moving on our way toward Arizona and get some more counties and pages we actually need. Come on, let's go.
We woke up in Truth or Consequences, then stopped off at Caballo to find one quick geocache right by Caballo Lake before we set out on the road for the day. It would be about 250 miles and 3.5 hours worth of driving until we reached our next planned stop all the way in Arizona.
The last couple of days encompassed far more driving than I-Chen is comfortable with. She's used to getting out of the car every 30 minutes to an hour or so, getting to walk around, see what's going on. But this has been hours and hours of endless driving through the desert with very few breaks along the way. So she's not comfortable. She keeps sitting up in the seat, looking around a little bit, and then jumping down below into a lower spot. But she doesn't stay there very long because she comes right back up to the seat after a few minutes. Sorry, girl. We still got a ways to go.
The miles continue to fly by as I-Chen continues her restlessness, giving me the side eye and questioningly asking, when are we going to stop? When's the next geocache? She has gotten used to spending long hours in the car, but that's normally punctuated with a stop every now and then for a find. And being in the morning, it's still too early for her afternoon nap.
Sure that's the spot you want? Well, I suspect you're going to be getting back down in a few minutes again. I know it's a lot of driving. You're doing a great job, I-Chen.
Really, it's not that one day of driving is this bad. It's that for 3 solid days, we've been covering endless miles in the desert with very few stops. And that, more than anything, has got the dog anxious.
Sure you're going to stay there? No, I didn't think so. That spot better? No? You a little anxious?
Getting off the I-25, we both need an excuse to stretch our legs, so we stopped off at Hatch, which is apparently the chili capital of the world. News to me, but maybe not to you, this village is widely known for growing a wide variety of peppers, especially the New Mexican cuisine staple and the New Mexico chili. Being a lover of spices, I did not mind the smell of chilies all around the town as we explored. On Labor Day of each year, this little village also hosts the Hatch Chili Festival, an event which has been known to attract as many 30,000 people from around the world. While there was certainly no evidence of those people in attendance today, I did notice that Hatch has a certain flavor of its own. Lining the major intersection of Franklin Street and Hall Street, which is basically Main Street USA, you will find a wide variety of characters that you're likely to recognize. Right about the time I saw this big boy holding up that burger on display, I started to get mighty hungry. Unfortunately, I-Chen and I decided to swing through on the one day of the week where nothing seems to be open. It was still a very fun tour through this unique town with its own spicy flavor before we got back on the road once again, hovering down on the remaining miles to reach Arizona.
Made it. It may have taken us half a day of driving through southern New Mexico, but we are officially in Arizona. It feels so good to have eaten through those miles.
Since we needed to reach Douglas, we could no longer stay on the interstate. Instead, we headed out of Rodeo from New Mexico into Apache in Arizona and continued our way south along Highway 80. Although there is certainly not an overabundance of geocaches on this stretch, there were still more than enough hides to satisfy our need to add our names to some logbooks for the day. And even though everything we tracked down along this stretch was a micro, they were all varied in their hide style. This helped to make it a fun little adventure each time we stopped the car to get out and track down another geocache. And of course, Aichan was thrilled that I was willing to let her out again at each stop, even if for just a minute. Finally, well into the afternoon hours, we reached our destination of Douglas in Cochise County. This charming town, right on the border of Mexico, has a population of about 15,000 people and was recently dubbed one of the nation's best micropolitan areas with superior amenities, growing economy, and moderate cost of living. Our very first stop in town was the Visitor Center, where we received not only a warm introduction to the city of Douglas, but also to Cochise County in general. Founded in 1901, Douglas was first established as a smelter site for the thriving copper mines in Bisbee, which we will be visiting next. And, like many of the small communities we visited along the Mexican border in southwest Texas, the grasslands here in Douglas make a perfect area for roundups for many of the region's largest cattle ranchers. In fact, despite its location in the desert, this entire valley is well known for its rich agriculture, which remains a very important part of the local economy. As we began to make our way west, out of Douglas, toward Bisbee, the landscape changed around us as we climbed up toward Bisbee's Queen Mine, one of the richest copper mines in history. In its nearly 100 years of history, this mine produced 8 billion pounds of copper, 102 million ounces of silver, and 2.8 million ounces of gold, along with millions of pounds of zinc. As a direct result of the mine's unerring success, the population of the mining camp soared to 9,000 people by 1910, becoming a full-blown city in practically no time at all. Shortly thereafter, the county seat was moved from Tombstone in 1929, where it still remains today. With the decline of the mining industry, so too came the decline of the population in Bisbee. But when all you're given is lemons, the best thing to do is make some lemonade. While the mining industry may have been on its way out in the late 20th century, the tourism industry was beginning to boom. Bisbee officially reopened the Queen Mine on February 1st of 1976 for tours to the public. Since then, more than 1 million visitors have taken the underground mine tour train. They also went through great efforts to revitalize their downtown area, developing such amenities as coffee shops, live theaters, and shops. Today, it is well known as a home to a thriving downtown cultural scene. After completing our tour of the downtown area, we made our way up the hilly streets to the Bisbee Buddha Cave. This is one of those kind of amazing spots that I would never be able to find without the help of a geocache listing to guide the way. Not only are the streets leading up here very narrow, but all of the stairs leading up the side of the mountain appear as if they lead to homes. The geocache listing gives very good instructions to be able to get to the trail leading between the homes, which leads to the Buddha Cave. This was a great way to not only walk out a lot of that energy we've had from being in the car for so long, but also to enjoy some great views of Bisbee spread out below us. When we arrived at the Buddha Cave, there were some people inside talking, so instead we got some more views of the city and busied ourselves with finding the geocache located just outside. Once they were done in the cave, Aichan and I went in to explore, and wouldn't you know it, they walked just a few feet away and found the geocache next to us anyway. That's when we discovered that one of the people in the group was none other than the cache owner, Raven. We took the opportunity to thank him for hiding a geocache in what would be our favorite spot to visit for the day.
All right, that is mission accomplished. We covered all 500 miles we had today, starting out in Truth or Consequences and making our way fully southwest through the state of New Mexico and then coming into Arizona. That entire trip through New Mexico, once we came out of Caballo, was pretty much just dead time. We had about 4 hours of driving, well over 200 miles before we finally got into our first targets in Arizona. But once we got to Arizona, the geocaching commenced in earnest. I really enjoyed getting to see Douglas, and the visitor center was a warm welcome after so many long miles of driving. It was also a
great introduction to Cochise County, where we'd be pretty much spending the rest of our day. Once we came out of Douglas, we made our way west and we came into the town of Bisbee, and I immediately fell in love with Bisbee. Not only did we get to go after that great geocache at the Buddha Cave, but we also got to tour the library and the downtown area. Now, we could press on from here in Sierra Vista to get to Tucson, which is pretty much our next stop, but a lot of the targets that we have on the way into the city are scenic kind of things that I don't want to be doing in the dark. So we're gonna head and call it a night here in Sierra Vista, and we'll be staged and ready to start out first thing tomorrow morning and work our way into Tucson through those scenic sights that I've got in mind. Thank you guys for joining us today on this tour of the desert. Like this video, subscribe to stay tuned for daily updates, and we'll see you out on the trails.